Welcome back, everyone, and welcome again, Idan. Idan is a long-time Codecamp friend. I can say that.
Hey, a long time. Of course, the Yashi Gardens, they're amazing. Almost like the palace itself and almost like the event itself that was there.
The event is, what did you like more, the garden or the event?
How can you untangle them? Yeah, exactly. Guys, it's amazing experience every time being in a code camp, not only the people, but the amazing lectures and your wonderful hosting. So I'm really looking forward to come over again and visit you.
We'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
And when it will happen, I have a glass of your favorite drink here, Dan. It's gin. So,
great. Okay, great. Yeah, okay.
Perfect. So what's hot in Firebase? Is it the gin?
In my throat it is hot, but a lot of things. Let me show you.
Okay, let's do that.
Then you have the floor and we regroup.
Sounds great.
In the meantime, we'll be in the garden.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
So I'll share my screen. Okay, can you all see me?
Yes.
Excellent. So, hi guys, hi gals. My name is Idan. I work at UVeye. It's a really cool startup. I'll tell you a little bit more about it in a second. And I'm very enthusiastic about Firebase. I'm very passionate about creating things, but as much as I'm passionate about creating things, I have a strong antagonism towards everything that diverts me from my work. All the tedious, excruciating part of the development process. And I want to show you something called Firebase that really helps me to focus on what I do best and outsource the rest. So without further ado, let's start. But before we start, oh no, I ruined it. Okay, what you expected is this guy who actually looks like he knows what he's talking about, but instead you got this cave-dwelling werewolf. I do apologize for that. I promise you it's the same person. It's just that here in Israel we just went through a big outbreak. Thank God we're over it now, but the hairdressers, or in my case hair paramedics, are still closed. So believe me, it's still the same person. I just have this Jufro, but enough.
Very hot look.
Thank you, Florin. But enough about me. Let's talk a little bit about where I work. UVeye, it's a vehicle inspection company. What we do is we scan vehicles in an amazingly high resolution. We analyze the result with really magical algorithms, and then we display the results in this beautiful UI. And over the past year, we've integrated Firebase into our products, and it's been a huge success. I'll give you one example. We have a very big client who does auctions for used vehicles. And he wanted a website to show the scanned vehicles to the potential buyers. Now, they had two requirements. First, this website had to withstand huge peaks of users, because once an auction starts, a swarm of potential buyers goes in and watch it. So you need to handle this kind of traffic. And the second requirement was that it would update live, because once something changes about a vehicle or new information arrives, you want to deliver it to those thousands of potential buyers immediately. And Firebase was a wonderful fit for that, and it was just it was a huge success. And I really hope I can prove it to you in a second. So without further ado, let's step into the fire. So what is Firebase? Okay, Firebase is a suite of services, cloud services, and in those terms, it's very much like AWS, which you probably know, or a Google Cloud Platform, GCP, which Firebase is actually based on. But unlike those, Firebase is much more ready. Is much more ready for production. There's much less decisions you have to make. Everything is prepared for you, and it makes the development experience much more easy, much more fun, and much more efficient. So let's talk a little bit about what Firebase actually provides us. So they have a database, which is awesome. They have hosting, which actually they're doing great. And they have authentication, which is always a headache, and it's really fun to outsource it. They have file storage, which is amazing. Unlike hosting, it's for uploading files, it's dynamic data. They have cloud functions, which is your backend logic, because unfortunately not everything can be in the client. They have analytics, which is awesome. It's fully integrated and you get amazing results in seconds. They have messaging for push notifications and things like that and much more. We'll talk about all of those in a second, but I think my main claim is that not only Firebase does each and every one of those services much better than any other implementation I've ever seen in my career. I'm not kidding. I'll show you in a second an example and you can judge for yourself. But not only that, I claim that the ecosystem, the joint power of everything together, the synergy between all those services, that's the real added value of Firebase, because the friction between the different layers of your application, you probably know that, is one of the hardest things you need to handle, not only when building your app, but when maintaining it, changing things about it. Those friction points between the database and the authentication and the file storage is always a pain in the behind. And Firebase makes everything integrate so smoothly, so powerful. It's really efficient, fun, and easy. And on top of all that, they provide you with an excellent library to communicate with all those services. And it's available for almost any environment you can imagine. Angular, woo! React, Java, Python, what have you. Believe me, there's a package to allow you to communicate with those services in a really fun and easy way. But to demonstrate this point, because till now I was just talking, I want you to bear in mind with me for a little thought experiment, a little mental experiment. I want to take you back in time to your first day in developers school. You know, you were really excited and probably teacher draw something like this on the whiteboard. A basic update flow where the UI makes a request to the backend and the backend responds to the UI. But probably on the second day of your developer school, you found out that this was a complete lie. This only exists in this pink bunny land world. And on the second day, you probably learned that this flow looks a bit more complicated because basically the UI makes a request to an endpoint, which is some sort of a probably REST URL you had to make in advance, which invokes a controller you had to write, which probably queries a database you had to set up that returns a set of results that you pack in a data object and returns it to the UI. Okay, I'm still good. Maybe it's not as good as it was the day before, but I can still handle it. But then, on the third day of developer school, you found out that even before it was too easy because you missed the entire user management layer where the endpoint asks for a permission and only upon approval it continues the flow. And I didn't even start mentioning error handling, which is a nightmare. Imagine how many errors can be creating tests for all of this, unit integration, end-to-end. And CI/CD, creating a development environment for all of these services and deploying it, that could be a real nightmare. And scaling, don't even get me started, for God's sake. Setting up a load balancer and creating a sharding for your database. By the way, sharding sounds like a bowel movement. It doesn't sound like a legitimate action you do as a developer, but that's not my choice. And security, setting up the ports, making sure that everything is secure, that could be a real nightmare. And then by the third day of developer school, you're a dead bunny and you decide to quit and go back to your farm. Wait. Because there is a way, and I'm going to tell you now, how to transform this dead, sad, depressed bunny into a happy bunny again. There is a way where you can create this, when you can transform this nightmare of a flow to this utopian, dreamlike flow. So let's see how Firebase does that. It sounds almost impossible, but bear with me. Okay, so let's imagine how would that code look like. So first of all, I would imagine I'd have this object. This is JavaScript, of course. You have plenty of other libraries, but today we'll show you JavaScript. I have this amazing DB object. It's a magical object. And in my dream, I refer to a collection simply by writing collections and adding the name of the collection. And if I want to add data, if I want to create a new document inside this collection, I would simply use add and pass the document data. And I would expect that it will return a promise that if it succeeds, I'll console log something, and if it fails, I'll console error something. Now, this sounds great and it looks really simple, but I want you to look beyond what is here and focus on what's not here, because this is where the added value of Firebase really lies. If this would work, and I'll show you in a second in a live demo, if this would work, this means that there's a tons of things I didn't do. Let's go over them. I didn't create an endpoint. If this would work, I don't know what endpoint does it talk to. I didn't have to write a controller with all the logic. I didn't have to set up a database. I didn't have to set up authorization, which is always a nightmare and a headache. I didn't have to take care of error handling. I didn't have to build a single test. I didn't have to worry about CI/CD. This simply exists somewhere in the cloud. And I don't have to worry about sharding. I don't have to worry about security. That's Google's problem, not mine. Now, can something like that actually work? Stay with me for 1 second. Before we start the live demo, I want to tell you a little bit about the combined power of Angular and Firebase. Again, Firebase can be used with tons of other libraries, and Angular can be used with tons of other backends. But they work amazingly together for 3 reasons. One, they both come from Google, and having the same parent is always nice. Not only that, but even though Google never said it explicitly, I do believe that Firebase and Angular represents Google's vision of a comprehensive stack, a comprehensive backend, front-end flow. And they're doing a great job at it. Second, they're both in JavaScript or TypeScript to be exact, which means that you can share types between your front end and your back end. You can share blocks, you can share classes. It expedites development amazingly. And last but not least, the data flow, the way data flow between Firebase and Angular. Firebase is a real-time service. That means that it informs the client of every change that happens instantaneously. And the way it does that is using sockets, which is a way of pushing information from the server to the client instead of having the client pull information from the server. So Firebase is socket-based, and Angular, on the other hand, is very strongly entangled with something called RxJS, which is an amazing library that gives you the ability to handle those magical objects called observables, which are very much like a promise, but on steroids. They can do so much more. They can handle, unlike a promise that happens only once, an observable allows you to observe information that mutates, changes along time. And those 2 things together, sockets and observables, work amazing together. And I want to show you how. So, let's start with the live demo. We'll build a chat app, and first of all, pray for me because live demos always have problems. And second, don't worry if you don't follow. This is not a workshop. You can just sit back, relax. I'll do all the work, and I'm sure you can get the general gist of things. So, okay, let's start the live demo. So first of all, what I have here, I hope everyone can see it. This is an Angular project. It's pretty much empty. I didn't want to create it live, so you won't have to sit through the excruciating download of the NPM modules. like Liran talked about, thousands upon thousands. But believe me, it's pretty much empty, and you do ng-new. It's using the Angular CLI. You do ng-new and you get a whole new project with all the little perks. And let's take a look at the folder structure. So I have the source folder here, and inside the app, I have all the files I'm going to handle. But before I do anything else, let's just serve this application. I want to see it. I want to see it live. In the meanwhile, while it builds the application, let's take a look at the HTML, and you can see that. 1 second. All I have here is a title. Okay, sounds good enough. Okay. There we go, and here's the title. By the way, Angular provides you with an amazing development experience, so if I change it to 3 exclamation point and save it, automatically I can see it in the localhost server Firebase Angular setup for me. Okay, so I'm building a chat app, and now I have an Angular project, which is really nice and everything, but what am I gonna use as a backend? Now, I remember that one time in Codecamp, I saw this weird werewolf caveman talking about something called Firebase. So let's give it a try. What do we have to use? Okay, I'll Google Firebase. And I deliberately clicking the ad and not the second result because it's Google, they can afford it. And anyway, it's money changing pockets from one pocket to the other. So I'll press the ad. Okay, and you can see everything here. I'll just switch over to the console where the cool stuff happens, and I'll create a new project. Let's call it, oh, you saw this really nice effect. Firebase makes it much more easy and fun to do everything. Stay and watch. So let's call it a Codecamp chat. Okay, sounds good. Continue. Now, do I want analytics? 1 second. Nah, I'll skip it for now, but you can have it for free. It's really nice. Oh, that's it? Creating your project? Okay, don't mind if I do. I'll just sit back on this beanbag chair and see how Google does everything for me. Provisioning resources, everything. Can you imagine asking your DevOps guy to build up an environment and it just happens so quickly? And your new project is ready. Excellent. Okay, continue. Let's see what we have here. Get started by adding Firebase to your app. Don't mind if I do. Okay, let's see what I have. I don't have an iOS app. I don't have an Android app. I don't have a Unity app, by the way. Firebase is great if you're building games. I do have a web app. Okay, let's click it. App nickname. Let's call it Angular app. And also set up Firebase hosting. Why not? Let's go for it. Register app. Let's see what happens. Okay, I'll take care of that later. Next, and continue to console. That's it. Okay, let's see what they want next. Choose a product to add to your app. Authentication. Authenticate and manage users. Okay, sure. Why not? Sounds like a great thing. I would love to have that. Authenticate and manage users from a variety of providers without server-side code? No, you're kidding me. Okay, let's give it a try. Set up a sign-in method. And look what we have here. Email password, phone authentication. Oh, that's amazing. But I really like the Google authentication. It's really nice and easy and everyone has it. I'll simply enable it. And oh, you see, I have this red thing here. Usually it means that something is wrong. Please select an email address. Ha, that was easy. Okay, save. Now, while it's saving, can you imagine how long it would take to set something like this up in AWS? Let's go back. Okay, this is enabled. Looks like I'm finished. Let's go back to the project. And what does it offer me next? Cloud Firestore, real-time updates, powerful queries, and automatic scaling. Sounds great. How can you refuse that? Let's go for that. and create database. Okay, this is an important point. Actually, they added it after they had a few very publicly embarrassing leaks of information. Firebase specifically explicitly asks you whether you want to start in production mode, which means that no one can write. And we'll get to authentication in more a little bit later, but I want you to take just 1 second to look at how explicit the rule is, how declarative it is. Allow read and write if false. Okay, so this would be false in any case, and so no one can read or write. But I'll go for test mode, which is a bit more complex, but it allows anyone to, with your database reference, to view, edit, and delete all data in your database for 30 days. So if the request time is sooner than 30 days from now, everything is allowed to read and write. Okay, let's click next. Set up Firebase locations. So if you have location issues, there's tons of different locations. I'll go for this one and enable provisioning Cloud Firestore. Okay, take your time. I'm in no hurry. It's not like there's thousands of people in Codecamp watching. Provisioning, not creating, provisioning. Oh, setting up security rules. This is important. I want security rules. And let's, okay, wow, that's pretty easy. Okay, let's go back here. So I think I did everything I need to do here. Next thing is to connect my Angular project with Firebase. Now, if I'll just type Angular in Firebase, the first result is the official Angular library for, spoiler alert, Firebase. Let's click here, and my favorite way to start, quick start guide. I already created a Firebase project. Now they want me to do this, ng add Angular 5. Okay, let's give it a try. So I'll go back to my project. I'll create a new console here. Let's give us some space here, and I'll simply paste it. And okay. There's something spinning here, so they're probably doing something, I would imagine. Take your time, no one's waiting. Oh, packages installed. Preparing a list of your Firebase project. Okay, so now I just need to, hey, you remember this one? I just created it a second ago. Let's choose this one. That's it. Okay, that was nice. Let's see what's next in our quick start guide. So next, they want us to add the Firebase config. They have the full instructions here, but I already know it. I'll just go here, project settings, and I'll copy the config. I have a really nice copy button here, so I don't even have to click Control-C, and I don't need you anymore. And here in the app module, I'll simply delete my previous connection and add this one. Ew, 1 second. What do you want from me? Fix current file. There you go. Double quotes is the devil. Okay, now let's save it and see that we don't have any problems. It's rebuilding. Okay, looks great. Let's visit our console and see that we don't have any errors here. Okay, looks good. I think we're ready to start. So the first thing I want to do is to add documents to my Firebase database. Remember, I just showed you this dream-like piece of code that's almost too good to be true. Let's try that one. I'll go to my HTML here, and let's create 2 elements. One, an input element, where the user can put the text of the message. And I'm using this Angular syntax to be able to reference this element a bit later. And right here, I have a button that on click invokes this method that passes the message element. Let's see what this method does. Okay, so on send, first I create those two variables, the text with the message value and a date with today's date. And you remember this magical object I showed you before in the code sample? Let's see how it works. So I'm referencing a collection called messages. By the way, this is the TypeScript syntax that allows you to let this method know what kind of information, what is the structure to expect. So when I'm adding data, if I'll try to add foo bar, it will probably fail because it tells me it doesn't fit well with this message type. So no problem, I'll remove this, and I have this then method and the catch error method. By the way, I have here something that makes sure that I don't pass empty information, and here I simply resets the message object, but that's beyond the point. Okay, I'm saving, let's see it in action. Okay, looks good so far. 1, 2, 3. Send it. Yay! Look at my console, document written with a document ID, but I still don't believe it. I want to see it in the Firebase itself. Let's see it. I'll go into the Cloud Firestore in my console. I have a message collection. I don't remember creating it. I don't remember creating an add point, and it has a new document with the data I just passed. Oh my God, this is amazing. Okay, so next thing in a chat, you'll want to see the messages as well. So for that, I have this, oh, sorry, wrong. Okay, I have this messages property, which has this $sign at the end. You see this one? This is an Angular convention, a syntax convention, meaning that this is unobservable. So this is not an array of messages. This is an observable that passes on an array of messages. And let's see how we populate this observable. So the messages property equals, oh, again, this DB object, you remember it from before? And again, with the same collection, only this time, instead of using the add method, you remember I used that before, this time I'm using the value changes method, which returns an observable that reflects everything that happens in this collection. So now let's implement it in the HTML. So I have an unordered list here, and this is the Angular way of iterating over an array. But if you remember, I said before, this is not an array. This is an observable. You have to subscribe to it in order to get the actual data. But Angular, as I said, does an amazing job in syncing them all together. So they providing an async pipe that actually subscribe to this observable for you, and then you can use the data from the document, such as message.text. Okay, let's save it and give it a spin. Hope I didn't forget anything. This is a live demo after all. Okay, I see the message I put before. Hi, how are you? Looks great. One last thing. I really want the messages to be ordered by the date. So let's add a query function. I'll just pass it to the collection. Don't worry about the syntax. You can read all about it later. And now, even though it's the same as before, believe me, now you have a list ordered by its date. Okay, looks pretty good so far, but okay, guys, I want you to stay with me because now I'm going to do something really, really, really amazing. Everyone who's sleeping, please wake up and get your iPhones or Android if you're unlucky, get them ready because we're going to do a live test and I want you all to participate. So please don't leave me alone here. Bear with me. I'm going to do something that always amazes me. I'm going to type 6 letters, 8 letters, I know, ng deploy. Let's watch it in action. Oh, I have this nice little emoji and it tells me that it's building something. Oh, now it's compiling, so you know it's doing something important. Okay, things happened, things happening. I'll give it a second. Time to take a sip of water. I think the gene from earlier is kicking in, so.
So I'm ready for the test.
Okay, stay with me.
Yes.
This is internet issues, not my fault. Stay with me. No way. It just finished, it simply deployed it. Oh my God, it actually works. But stay with me for one more second because I'm going to do something really cool. I'm going to save this one. Good. Now, okay, everyone who's still awake, please go and visit this website. I want to try it because if you haven't noticed, it took me, I don't know, like 10 minutes. I always push my time limits. It took me like 10 minutes to build a live chat app, but you can't really enjoy it unless you see it in action. So please, guys, everyone who can, just grab your phone and scan this QR code, come visit me at my chat. Okay, I really hope everyone are finished. One last second. You can always just go to idco.me/codecamp. I really hope. If someone can write it in the chat, that would be amazing. And let's see what's happening there. Oh my God, yeah! Okay. This is just amazing. King, cool session, Idan. Thank you, guys. I live for this because doing Zoom talks isn't fun because it's a little bit fun. I enjoy talking about Firebase, but I really miss the feedback from the audience. And this is like the second best thing. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
On the feedback, I totally feel you. So you're just staring into the, that tiny camera there, like the big brother, trying to figure out where the people are.
And it's so much fun getting this feedback, guys. Thank you so much. Okay, but I'll leave this open. You can still write here. I'll go back to it in a second. But let's continue because we still have really cool things I want to show you. Go away, Zoom. And play. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about authorization. I showed you, when we set up the database, I showed you how declarative and explicit authorization works in Firebase. Now I want to show it to you in action. So let's go back to the console for a second. Okay, the live demo still continues. And I'll go into the rules of the Firestore. Now, here is the rule that I created earlier, or Firebase created earlier for me. And now I can simply change it to if request.auth.uid is different than null. And I'll publish it, which this actually means that read and write will be allowed only if you're logged in. Now let's go back to the project. Oh, where did all the messages go? And I even get this very explanatory error message, which is really nice, getting explanatory error messages. But I think I'm a bit too harsh here. Let's change it a little bit, and I'll split the rules. So allow write, allow read. If true, anyone can read it, but allow write only if you're authenticated. Let's publish it. Come on, Firebase. Yay. Published changes. Let's take a look. And now, and now, and now, and now, and now. Come on, guys. Yay! Okay, I see we do have a small problem. I think it's network issues. Oh, there you go. Hello from Romania. Okay, so now I can read, but if I'll try to send a message, create a document, you see that it creates it for a second, but now it's, no, I still have connection problems. I hope you're seeing me well. Florin, can you give me a feedback? Is my network okay?
What you're looking at?
Oh, I was just wondering if my connection is okay.
No, your connection is okay. We were able to see your desktop.
Okay, so this is what I want to show you. If I'm trying to write down a message, you see that I get this error message. But if you look closely, I'm not sure that the connection is fast enough. You'll see that for a second, the 444, the message I wrote, did show up here. That's because Firebase is based on optimistic changes. First, when you try to make a change, it first changes it in your local model, and only if it fails, it reverts the local model. Otherwise, it just continues as usual. It creates a much better user experience when you talk about when you talk about live updates. So this is authorization. Let's continue. We also have authentication, which is amazing. It allows you to do a drop-in authentication solution. You don't have to write a single piece of code. You can use email password, you can use third party, you can use phone number, and you can even use anonymous authentication. Wait, what? Anonymous authentication? Yeah, that's a real thing. It allows users to work against a specific and unique user ID without having to go through the entire registration process. And if later the user does decide to register, you can just continue from the same point he left off, which creates, again, an amazing user experience. Now, I think I still have a few minutes. I want to show you the authentication. No, not the database, the authentication for a second. Okay, I have this really nice sign-in component I created earlier. Let's take a look at it. I'll just take a look at the HTML. I won't get too deep into it, but it has two parts. If the user is authenticated, say hello and the username, and have a sign out button. If the user isn't logged in, just show the login and allow a sign in button. Okay, and let's take a look at the code itself. Let's take a look at the sign-in method. It's probably something pretty, sign-in is a big thing. A single line of code? No way. Sign in with pop-up, and I just passed the Google Auth provider. I have to, no way it's working. Let's see it in action. Okay, now I have this sign-in button. I'll sign in. And now it says, hello, Idan Cohen. And let's see if now I try to write a new message. It succeeds because if you remember earlier, I added a security rule that prevents users that aren't logged in from adding messages. So authentication is also a breeze. Now I'll go over the rest of the things really fast, so we'll still have time for Q&A. So the database, you've already seen it, but you need to understand how amazing it is. It's very, very flexible. It allows you to create documents inside of collections and sub-collections inside of documents. It allows you to use a very rich declarative query language directly from the client, which is amazing. You don't have to worry about everything else. It promises amazing performance with auto-indexing, better than I've ever seen in any other database, especially cloud databases. It's real-time, it provides you with real-time updates. It has offline support, so if your user has connection issues, it can still keep on working. Once the connection restarts, everything will sync together. And it does scaling. It doesn't care if you have one user over 10,000 users. Actually, they care. Google care. It's their problem, not yours. Oh, no. Okay, good. It also has hosting with one-line deploys. You've seen this deploy. It's like the funnest deploy ever. You can have multi-site, multi-project. So if you have multiple projects working against the same backend, you can create different sites. You have one-click reverse, which is amazing when you actually have a problem. And you have preview channels. It's like a beta version. You can send only to specific users or fellow developers. Collaboration is amazing. Passing things to your QA or your UX is wonderful with this. You have cloud functions, which is absolutely amazing, and it works better than any previous backend logic I've ever seen. It's triggered by platform event, adding, deleting, or simple, classic HTTP endpoint. It integrates seamlessly. You have full control over all the other services Firebase provides you directly from those functions. It's zero maintenance. Firebase worries about everything. It worries even about scaling. So if there's like 1,000 or 10,000 invocation in the same moment, that Firebase handles it amazingly, and it's fully isolated. It's not on the client. It's only on your console on the backend, and it's a huge security perk. Storage, which is also amazing. It's unbelievably fast. It has a lot of robust operations you can do. So if the user downloads something and it stops in the middle, it can just simply continues. Same goes for upload, which is amazing. A strong security, very similar to the security I've shown you about the database, the permission, and high scalability. Machine learning, this is amazing, especially for companies like us who does a lot of image analysis. It's production ready for common use cases if you want to recognize text or isolate faces. It gives you it out of the box. You can upload custom models. You can train your own ML models, and it even works in a smaller version directly on your device. No, it doesn't even have to talk to the cloud. It has emulators because, with all due respect to cloud, you do want to develop locally and deploy it globally. So the emulators that emulates the file store, a database, and the functions and the hosting makes it really easy and fun, enjoyable to develop and test unit integration or end-to-end. It provides you with an amazing analytics, not only for the UI, but for the cloud functions and for everything. It integrates amazingly with your entire suite of solutions. And you can measure performance. Firebase offers you tons of tools that makes your life as a developer or your project as a company much easier, like measuring performance. And one of the most amazing things I've ever seen, and Google or Firebase does it amazingly easy, is cloud messaging. If you want to send push messages to a specific user, to a bunch of users, to all of your users, it's super easy. It also have in-app messaging. I didn't have time to add it. There's tons of resources, because what I like most about Firebase is how well documented it is. It makes ramp up for new team members really easy and really fun. And it's a huge advantage when you're working and collaborating in a team, making sure that everything is standardized and everything is Googleable. And I love it. That's it, guys. That's me. That's Firebase.
So there now, Firebase, Firebase, Firebase. Brilliant, brilliant talk. Oh, so exciting. I mean,
yeah, I'm excited. The live demo and everything.
Yeah, look at the feedback already. Look at the feedback already, and it worked. Yeah, but let me tell you a little story. So Idan, we recently migrated, rewritten an entire system from Firebase to .NET, and people in the company were crying. So no, don't quit Firebase, don't. But well, you know, business imperatives. We had to switch. We had to move it. So, and we're still crying from time to time that we don't use Firebase in that project.
My condolences. We'll always be happy to get you back flowing.
No, it's been a brilliant talk, really.
Thank you, thank you.
And we've got all the questions.
Yeah, we got some questions, but yeah, before we dive into, let's say, the more on the point question, there is some debate about some concepts. For instance, a lot of things happen behind closed doors, so they're being done out of the box, and that's actually one of the huge benefits of Firebase. And the question is there a danger, I don't know, that new developers that dive in directly into this ecosystem, they don't get to understand or get a good grasp of concepts like, for simple things like error handling to scalability?
Should they?
Or is that the future?
I look at I have an older brother, and his computer science studies involved a lot of creating circuits and dealing with hardware. Now, today in our world as a developers, unless you're really deep into hardware, that's not part of your job. And I don't really see a reason why error handling or scaling should be part of the developer work. Let me focus on what I do best and outsource the rest. But sometimes you do need a finer tuning. You do need to customize certain aspects of your application. And in that sense, the fact that Firebase is based on GCP, Google Cloud Platform, actually allows you to switch from a managed service. It's managed anyway, but it allows you a much better fine-tune by accessing the Google Cloud Platform, where you have a real freedom and extensive options to fine-tune your app or your stack for your specific needs. So if you want it, be my guest and use it. In most cases, I find it that you can create amazing things with the basic implementation Firebase offers you.
I guess it has to be aligned somewhere. So you're using this, but yeah, you need to have a bit of a grasp of what's happening, but then only dive so that you can dive into and customize where needed, and you know what to do and what's possible. And also, this reminds me of something that I read somewhere, that yeah, if you want to, there are people that want to know in great detail how everything is working. And somebody said, yeah, if you're like that, maybe you should go into academics. If you're an engineer, maybe, yeah, what's enough in order to solve the problem and build your product. Okay, so there are a couple of questions in the list here. There are more specific. For instance, one is about Firestore, and then if you can integrate it with different databases, like SQL databases.
God, no. I'm sorry. I personally grew up on SQL databases, and sometimes I dream about them at night. I really miss them. Going into the NoSQL, NoSQL database was a huge mind switch for me, a paradigm switch. But no, Firebase in this sense gives you very little flexibility, because they offer you this deal. Work with our rules, work under our constraints, and we'll give you the sky, we'll give you the world. But if you have finer needs, you need, for example, a SQL database, that there are projects that you must have a SQL database. That's okay. Google Cloud Platform has other solutions. AWS has other solutions. And I'll even tell you something more. I think this was part of the question. You can, for example, use the Firebase storage and the cloud functions, but work against an AWS DynamoDB or whatever you have. Things won't run as smoothly as they are when you're in the same ecosystem, but if you need it, you can.
Are there some features you will be missing out on? Or first, does it affect the real time?
Join, for God's sake. I miss join so much. I miss it. I miss joining tables so much. But it forces you. You asked about noob developers or starting developers. I think that working under the restraints of no join, no SQL database actually forces you in a good way to really understand the structure of your data, the way your application handles it, and it makes you a better developer than the Wild West world of a SQL database where you can just join everything together. But this one I really miss.
I also remember back in the days of long time ago, and when you started a new project, the first thing you did was you start from designing your database, and then your whole domain grew. And then, but now these things force you to focus on the domain, focus on what you want to do, and then everything else is, let's say, infrastructure.
Plumbing.
You put it better than I did.
Okay, then here's another one. You touched a bit in your demo, but somebody asks, what are the best practices where you want to show data updates in real time to the UI?
First of all, always work directly with the database, because you can use Firebase very similar to your usual Node Angular Express stack, the min stack. You can create cloud functions that are very similar to REST APIs endpoints and query them. But and you get all the things you're used to get when you used to build this API layer in your Node application. That's okay, but remember that REST is a promise-based, so you can only query your data once. But if you use this magical DB object I showed earlier, then you're querying the database directly from the client, and you don't only get the response, the snapshot of the data in a specific time, but you actually get an observable you can use in your application to reflect changing data, mutating data along time. So my best recommendation for working with real-time data is query the database directly from the client. You get all this for free.
All right, cool. Yeah, I think we're running out of time. We could, I feel we can talk more about this. It's really interesting.
But before we close the session, I think you convinced me. I'll talk to the client. Maybe we rewrite back to Firebase.
More business.
I'll do.
All right. Thank you so much.
It was so much fun. Thank you so much for having me. I really hope next time it will be in Romania. I'm half Romanian, as you know, and I really miss it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
One more look at the garden, and then, yeah, see you next time. Until next time.
I'm staying tuned for the next talks. Good luck, everyone. There's a bunch of interesting talks. Can't wait to hear it.